Hey, patrons, and everybody watching. This is question corner time, answering questions that came in on the patron Discord. If you have a question, there's a free post on Patreon. Actually, I'm going to try to, I guess we'll do QQ. I wonder if I could do that with our website. So you can either go to our Patreon page. There'll be free posts with question corners, or you could try sleepwithmepodcast.com/question corner or question. At some point after this video, I'll have that established, and that should link right to our question corner page. But yeah, I got a couple questions that came in. One is from Serge Teapot, who says, if brainbots were battery powered, which battery would they require? That's the thing about brainbots. Batteries are not required. They run on perpetual. They create their own power by their own perpetual motion. If they require batteries, we could take them out. Yeah, unfortunately, brainbots they have some sort of dynamic power source. Oddly, the lower your power is, their power also increases. So it is like inverse connection. And then the second question, a little bit longer answer. What would you change about Sleep With Me if you had more time, budget, or resources? I don't know. This question's changed a lot. And I've thought about this answer a lot. That's like, right now the show, like we're right in the, right now I want to get the podcast back to where it was like about a year and a half ago, where we had, we were in a place where we had about 400 or 500 more patrons and a few more sponsors. So the show was a little bit less, where it was clear the show putting out 2 free episodes a week was very sustainable, and putting out extra content on Patreon was very sustainable. So right now I just want to get back to that point where we have, about a few hundred more patrons, or about 6. I don't know. That's where I'd like the show to be currently. I don't know if we're going to get there or not. That's like always the question. And so that kind of leads into where I would like things to be. This is not realistic, but it's like, at least I would like the show to rely less on direct response, direct listener action. And that'd probably be through advertising. We're going to try some tests coming up here soon. If you're a patron, this doesn't even affect you at all. But right now, all of Sleep With Me's existence depends on listener action, either by Patreon, Apple subscriptions, or our sponsors are all direct response. Maybe one sponsor could be considered not direct response, but like where the sponsors kind of base their support of the show they're not looking for like old-fashioned radio ads or television ads where they're just looking for their ad to get seen. It's, hey, how many people see this ad, and then how many how many people take this next action, which is free a lot of times, which makes it even harder. Or like with ZocDoc's app is free, or Helix's quiz is free, and those ads are U.S. only, and our audience is like international. And we've tried to get direct response. Right now we have Polysleep in Canada, but beyond that we haven't had a lot of success. And that's just been the majority of podcasting, though it is slowly moving in a way more towards non-host read ads, but host read ads that are not direct response, meaning like a car company or a restaurant or something. And honestly, like I used to wonder, I wasn't so sure about that, but just like doing direct response and having all our eggs in the direct response basket just isn't sustainable either. So it's like, yeah, I'd like to move. I mean, in a fantasy world, there'd be no direct response. Like I just make a podcast, put people to sleep, and it would be sustainable. And but that's just not the reality for any podcast, not just Sleep With Me, or for 99.9999999% of podcasts. So, but making a sleep podcast does make it more difficult with direct response, I assume. But sometimes I think we're not that far off what other shows are. So that would be the next thing I'd change. And then if we had more time and resources, I mean, what happened in the past, the one time we had a little bit extra resources was we made more shows. on Patreon, we had like actually like we got to the point on Patreon where we had wiggle room, and we used that money to make more Ray episodes. So we made 12 extra Ray episodes. Right now we're in kind of an inverse place where we're trying to do subscriber summer and reduce our content, put out more episodes on Patreon, but less episodes, and doing repeats in the public feed. But I don't think that's sustainable either. But it's a test to kind of save some money. If we had more resources, I think in the past, my kind of standard desire was to make Sleep With Me in other languages, but I think that would just become the same conundrum as it is right now. Even if we had more resources, it'd be this constant thing of like checking the numbers and being like, hey, how much does it cost to make Sleep With Me in this other language? And are we covering our costs, or how much money are we losing? And so, I mean, especially with like something new like that, it would take years. So it's just like, so taking our eggs out of that basket and kind of looking at like, if we had more resources, it'd be like, hey, what if there was some other way we could do that in another language through partnerships, and making sure we'd invest some money in the contract side and the legal side before we moved forward with that, or investing money in not like Sleep With Me related projects instead of Sleep With Me that are so just to spread around stuff a little bit. So that'd probably be if we but I mean, I guess the main goal that I've come back to, especially from the surveys we ran, where the majority of people I heard from were people that weren't in a position to support the show. And even though that's a smaller subset of the audience, the fact that so many of those people took the time to take action and let me know, hey, I'm just not in a position to support the show, or here's what's going on with me, or here's my story, but this is how much Sleep With Me means to me. And what they always like, they tell me that in a way that's unique to them, but also the very shared thread we have, that it helps me fall asleep, it keeps me company, it makes me feel less alone, it takes my mind off of stuff. And that those people that listen for free really do benefit from the ad-supported version of Sleep With Me. And there wouldn't be a subscription version of Sleep With Me without ad-supported version. The two things are interdependent on each other. I think, I mean, just subscription podcasts have they've never shown themselves to be sustainable, where the podcast is only available through a subscription. So I don't know that. So those are the people I heard from, and people that support the show that I hear from. If you're watching this on Patreon, you already took your action to support the show. But the fact that, yeah, put this thing out. I mean, I mentioned it millions and millions of times on the ad-supported show, and the people I heard from were mostly people that couldn't afford to support the show, which I'm so, again, grateful. I was blown away, because we've never done it in that way before. Where it was like, I need to hear from people of either like to either support the sponsors for the free show, or, hey, what do we need to change? And so, yeah, a lot of people said we don't need to change it. Like, I really rely on the ad-supported show. And then a smaller subset of people I heard from were kind of a lot of different variations on, I'm just not going to support the show at all. Like, which is I mean, the fact that they took action to let me know that is a lot more powerful than, it's just a big deal. Like, anytime anybody takes an action related to the podcast, I mean, that's huge. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of people. And so the fact that people also let me know, I would only support the podcast if you did A, B, and C, which is just behind the scenes, not realistic, or only if this, or this, or just I won't support the podcast. And that's a very valid thing. Like, the fact that they took action to do that meant a lot to me too. And in some sense, even those people that had a really harsh version of it, they're like still listening to the ad-supported version and getting a lot out of it, even though part of it is like it's feeding some sort of stronger negative feelings. That's important too. And so that's kind of like where my mindset is currently, is like, so like having resources would probably go back to where we were a year and a half ago, where it's like, okay, let's make sure this show's sustainable, and that we're kind of like budgeting out, and that we have, like, if there's just going to be a shortfall in the future, we can cover that stuff, and investing in like the people that work on the show, like making sure the editors and Russell and Tatiana and everybody that works on the show, investing in them. I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. Like, and it's like, okay, like right now it's like, hey, we're going to try this out with doing a few different things different with the advertising. And the good thing is, like, we can still have both. And the more people that support the direct response sponsors, the more direct response host read ads we'll have. But maybe that we could have some dynamic ads to make up for the, like, that again, make it like, hey, Sleep With Me is going to stay free and coming out twice a week, except, during when I take breaks or whatever. And then, we'll still be doing all the stuff we're doing on Patreon. Because I don't want the show to become like a once a week free show and then once a week on Patreon, or I don't know. I feel like the show is really right where creatively the podcast has really been in a great spot. And so that's always a good sign. It's like creatively the show is like, I feel like in a good place. We've got a lot of different episodes recorded. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess like it comes back to like, sometimes I think about resources and other stuff, but it's like, hey, like, I just want to see, can we make this show for another 10 years? Or what would it look like if we do it for a few more years? And then, yeah, we had more resources, we'd pay more for writing. We do that very rarely. And we'd pay for full writing. Like right now, we only pay kind of for half writing. We've only done that a few times. And again, this isn't, we don't do, like, this is people we're already working with, but it's like, where, like we're taking an episode and reimagining it and compensating them, or taking something somebody wrote, like a newsletter, and reimagining it into a episode. So, or we have somebody working on that. Anyway, like taking that's like a half written episode, moving to full written episodes. And then if we had more resources, even more than that, to be like, hey, well, what if we, instead of me making less episodes, we made another episode with another host? I mean, even if it was in another feed or whatever, those would be kind of where I would go now, but that would be slow build. Because, yeah, I mean, there was a point like about a year and a half ago, or maybe 2 years ago, where things were really, where it was like, where it looked like, it was like, we could even, if we wanted to make 3 episodes a week, we could have slowly moved towards that. But I was like, well, if it's like that in 6 months from now, we'll start making we'll put out a 3rd episode a week or something. But, looks like Co's got to go potty here. She says, hey, video's over. I got to go potty. So, yeah, like, I don't think we'd ever go back to 3 episodes, just because it was like that period. Now I learned from that. I'm like, yeah, let's hold off and see if this budget's there 6 months from now. And it wasn't. So it was good, because if we had started, then it would have been quite a pickle. Anyway, thanks for the questions. I hope everybody has a great day. I'm about to take a dog to the potty.